Hi, and welcome to another Art of Life exploration session. Today, I'm talking to somebody absolutely fascinating. I've known her just briefly on and off for quite a while now, and I've watched her career blossom and flourish and change and shift. She is dynamic, she is curious, she's all about learning something new and doing something new. So, we're going to talk to Anna Shalina today. I'm very excited to chat to her about relating. I'm Angela Hardy, for those of you who haven't met me. I teach people how to love themselves, how to have a life that is full of joy and pleasure, that is easy to navigate, and that allows them to just experience the adventure and the pleasure of being alive instead of thinking, oh, hell, I'm so depressed, I hate this. So that's who I am. And this is Anna. Welcome, Anna. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here. What a great Friday to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Anna, the first thing I want to ask you is relating. What do you mean by that? What are you talking about when you say you work in relating? You teach people about relating.
So the first thing that people think about when they hear the word relating, and I heard this often when I'm like, hey, I'm Anna from the Relating Academy, they always think relationships. So they're like, oh, the Relationship Academy. And yes, obviously the word relating is in relationships, of course, but it is so much bigger than relationships with other people. It's how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to our past, how we relate to our future, how we relate to our health, how we relate to the stories that happen. So it's just a broad sense of relating. And when you really look at it, like everything's relating. It's like how we relate to nature and each other, of course, as well. But it's just like a really broad. And my background is in being a human behavior specialist. And when I started to put two and two together, that everyone in some form is relating to something. And then that's how it kind of condensed to the Relating Academy.
So, what do you actually teach? You're teaching people how to relate better? You're teaching people how to understand relating? What is it exactly that you're teaching?
Right. So most people will have, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and every entrepreneur has one of three areas that they might be looking into. So they're either looking into relationships with others, like finding love or fixing love or whatever, something with others. So love. Number two is business, getting better in business. So relating with other people, with their business partner better, with their clients better. Or number three, health, relating with fitness, relating with your body, relating with food. So it's all so it can be in every area of life, and those three specifically. A lot of the time I am helping other people relate, but if they need help with their business, that's also a lot of relating. A lot of it has to do with like, how do I relate with failure? Do I let it set me back? Do I let it propel me? How do I relate with success? Like those kind of things. So it's in all areas of life.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We're going to get into that because I'm really interested about how you do that and how you talk about it with people and how, like, the little tips and hints that you can give the people watching this as to how they can get better at relating in general. But before that, I'm really curious about how you got into this, what your life kind of journey was that took you to this place where you're teaching about relating in terms of human behavior and getting on in life better, having a more joyful, happy life.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely wasn't planning to be here. This career found me in many, many ways. But also, I started going to personal development seminars when I was like 17, 18 years old, right? So really, really young. I was always like the youngest person in the room. And I kept on doing like personal development stuff in conjunction with like the traditional studies, right? With like going to school, university, and all those things. So I was this like closeted personal development nerd. I kind of didn't want really people to know about how into it I was, and so on the surface, I was like, "Hey, let me finish, university, and let me do this, and let me do that." And so I was very like work and career and business orientated at first, and like kind of being closeted in the personal development space. And then, so after university, I had no idea what I was going to do. I have a degree in property studies of all things, which I've never used professionally. That cliche of like, you never really use what you study. And some people do, obviously, but I wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
And then I was really confused as to like, I didn't really want a corporate job. So I went off and I worked on the yachts for a couple of years. So that introduced me to like this world of like luxury and insane wealth and abundance, like working for the billionaires of the world. And when I was on those yachts, I kept on looking at what were they reading, what were they talking about, what was their mindset. I was like a ninja in hiding, where I was like serving them breakfast and cleaning their toilets. I was like, what are they doing differently to the rest of us, right? So there's this part of me where I was always curious about human behavior and mindset. So when I was done with that career, I was like, okay, I didn't know what business to start. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I like tried different businesses. So I had like I had an export company with a business partner. We exported wine from South Africa into Ghana and Zimbabwe. And then I had a security company for a couple of years, security guarding. So I grew that company and then got so exhausted. And again, I was using all of these like human behavior principles because I'd studied under like the best human behavior specialists and like learned all these things. And I was using them all to like grow my own businesses and do really well. And people would look at me and were like, how are you achieving all these things, right? And I was like, not sure. And then after I got just exhausted from the business side of things, I sold my businesses and I started consulting. So at first I was consulting for like sales and business, and then it morphed into more mindset, right, and more personal development. And then I really like started to step into the role of like being a human behavior specialist for entrepreneurs, helping them succeed. And you know, that is like the relationship with their business, the relationship with success, and then that morphed into relating of the bigger kind. So it's been like quite a journey, Angela.
Sounds like. What I'm interested about is you're 18 years old and you're going to these personal development conferences and you're reading about personal development and you're busy just trying to inform yourself. I know that I was doing that at that age, and I was doing that throughout my 20s, well into my 30s. And I even today, you know, obviously that's a subject of interest to me because it's part of the work that I do, although I do approach it from a slightly different angle now. But I know that I was looking for something. I felt like there was this missing element in my understanding of how life worked, how I got to be happy, how I got to be content, how I got to get ultimately that good feeling inside right there in the gut that we're all looking for. What was it that you were looking for that drove you to these places that you were seeking all this time?
Oh, I'm a massive seeker. It's been decades of seeking for me, for sure. I was looking, I kind of thought that I knew that there was a formula, that if I just applied this formula, that there were building blocks to reality, basically. And I wanted to know what these building blocks were and are, because school wasn't teaching me that. So I was really like, you know, very big problem solver. So I like look at lots of different things, and I'm like, okay, what is the foundational thing that's missing or that's not working and stuff like that. So it's part of just like how I think as well. But definitely, like I had, in terms of like a childhood, we were immigrants from Ukraine. So we moved from Kiev to Cape Town. I was 6 years old. So I had a lot of like a big shift and a lot of tumultuous emotions at the time, which left me very separate from like my family, which was back in Ukraine, you know, and it took me many years to uncover all the abandonment that I had to get through and stuff like that. So I felt very displaced in the world, like being an immigrant child, you know, when I was 6. And I love my life, and I love that we did move, and it's amazing. And I'd be a completely different person if I grew up in Kiev, but like that did leave this like wanting for like home, right? Or a sense of belonging that that's what I started to discover in personal development seminars, books. Like I started reading like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Who Moved My Cheese, Millionaire Mind when I was 10 years old. Like, so it was actually way before I was 18. And that was actually thanks to my dad. My dad's like, yeah, read these books. So yeah, it was actually just forever ago that I started searching for that belonging and that home.
What do you think the most useful thing of all of that has been for you? If you could say just, well, look, there's tons of them, no doubt, but just one of the things, the sparks that set you on a path that said, yes, I've discovered something that is really going to be helpful for me. What might it be?
Oh man, you know how
Tough one,
difficult this question is. I mean, what?
right?
How do I distill 30 plus
Tough
years
one.
of doing work? I think it's curiosity, and it's really being curious. And then the other thing that's really helped is to really come home to and embody that there's no end to the healing journey or the journey. Like it is just, it is, and have peace with that, because the first like decade of doing the work, I was not at peace with it. I was like, kept chasing. I was like a seminar junkie. I was at every little thing that I could get my hands on, like it was crazy. And so when I started to really like come home to like, oh, okay, I want to do this because it's fun and I'm curious and I want to discover more of myself versus trying to fix myself, or like, versus trying to fix myself. That changed everything.
I think that's fascinating. I think that's probably true for me as well. There was this idea at some point that I was broken. And a lot of my clients, and probably yours also, have come to you with this feeling of brokenness and this idea in their mind, fix it, as opposed to this understanding that actually there's never been anything broken. It's just a question of understanding life at a different level from a different perspective that will help you to navigate it in a way that is more joyful. But you're not broken, you're not wrong, you're not damaged.
Mm-hmm. It is absolutely part of being alive. That's why we're here, is to be on this journey, this hero's journey, right? To lose parts of ourselves and then regain parts of ourselves. It's part of being alive to forget and then remember. Because I used to be like, oh, I remember my magic, or I remember my greatness, and I remember this like aha moment. But in order to remember and feel that, you have to forget. Forgetting is part of the magic. You can't just be remembering all the time. That doesn't work in terms of the polar world that we live in. This world is based on polarity. That's a universal principle. So being at peace with the forgetting and the remembering, it was absolutely crucial for me to be where I am today.
Curious, interesting. Okay, let's go to what it is that you do, because I'm so interested in this relating topic. Tell me about the importance of relating. What is so valuable that you're actually building a career out of helping people to do it, in terms of relating consciously, in terms of relating human to human, in terms of relating to ourselves, to others, to our health, all that kind of jazz?
Oh, really great question. So again, it was my curiosity for the foundational piece, like what is the building blocks, right? And it was actually in a plant medicine ceremony, one of many, that all my experience of like 8 years of training clients and everything like dawned on me. And I'm like, life gets better with like when you better relate. And like I said, it's much bigger than other people, with other people, obviously, right? But in terms of just yourself and all those things, so that became like really important for me. And then in terms of like the last 2-3 years, what we've been through, and the decisiveness that we've seen, and the like opposition that we've seen, and the narratives, and like the lack of basic relating skills to another human with an opposite viewpoint as you, is fundamental and is a big problem that I see, that I was like, I want to fix this, or I want to be part of the solution. I'm not going to fix the whole thing, right? But I want to be in conversation with other people, obviously, I'm working towards, and we're never going to get to utopia. That's not where I'm going to either. But I do feel that, when we are able to better relate and have that peace, then we have like everything else works out as well, right? Our family structures are stronger, our sense of community is stronger, we're less lonely. So the epidemic of loneliness is insane, and it's really dangerous for our health, like mentally, physically. There's a study where it's like akin to like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day or something crazy like that, so like really being part of the solution of like for that, really inspires me. So that's why relating is so important.
Okay, so now tell me, there are some principles that you teach that help people to relate better. Can you share those with us?
Yeah, of course. So the five, we have about 5 principles that we teach. And so the first one is you are half of every relationship you've ever had. So if you really take that in, I'm going to repeat it because it's like, so when I got this message, I was at Africa Burn when this dawned on me. I was like, oh yes, you're half of every relationship you've ever had. So everything is a reflection, every relationship, everything in life. We live in a holographic world, right? So in terms of like taking responsibility and not blame, I'm not saying blame. A lot of people go like, oh, do I have to blame myself that this person did that? It has nothing to do with blame, because when you understand the principle of reflection, there's nothing to blame because you're equally just co-creating. And then you can empower yourself to shift that reflection. So to give you an example, a personal example, for example, and this is also bigger than in relationships. Obviously, every single person out there is a reflection for us. The thing is, we like the pretty reflections. You're like, oh, Angela's so beautiful, so I must be beautiful. Angela's so kind, so I must be kind, right? And then I look at Dominique or whoever, right? And I'm like, oh, she's so mean. And I'm mean? Like, no, I'm not mean, right? And so we have a hard time accepting the shadow reflections, right? And so that's a big part of what we teach is like the shadow work and really working, owning your shadow. Because if you're only owning like half of yourself, the nice parts, you're never going to be whole, and you're never going to be able to attract what you want to attract, because you're going to lose magnetism for what you want when you are being one-sided, when you're being half of the story, right? And the nice, kind girl, right? Versus like, I can be a manipulative bitch when I need to be. And I'll own that, and all the things in between. Does that resonate with you, Angela?
I think that it's not just useful, but also important to know. I mean, the way that I would put it is different, but I think it amounts to the same thing. You tell me. It's like we are in balance all the time within ourselves. And balance is not about being perfect, and it's not about being good, and it's not about being successful, and it's about being great and hectically bad at something. You know what I mean? I'm really good at this, I'm really bad at that. I'm sometimes really kind, I'm sometimes not very unkind. And that whole picture is actually the full complement of who I am. And to embrace that full complement it's required in order to have a sense of self-love, in order to have a sense of self-worth, in order to be unconditional with ourselves. And it's only in that unconditionality with ourselves that we have an experience of ourselves that says, I can feel okay about myself, I can be enough, and I can have that warm feeling inside that says, it's okay that I'm me. So is that the same thing?
It is definitely similar.
Yeah.
It is similar for sure. It's based on the same principle. I think we just have different ways of explaining the same thing, like different languages for the same thing. But yeah, I love that reflection that you just shared. I'll give you a reflection for me.
Yes.
Was a couple of months ago. There was an Airbnb scam. So I was scammed by Airbnb. Like it all worked out because like I got the money, blah, blah, like it was fine. It wasn't about the money. It was the stress of having to move something and like, and just being up in the air about things. And then when I looked at the situation, I had a choice. I could say like, these damn scammers, like it's so unfair, and like I'm the victim and blah blah. Or I had the choice to go like, okay, how is this a reflection of my internal state? Where am I a scammer? Where am I pretending to be something that I'm not? Right? Where am I being inauthentic? And I was like, shit, you were trying to throw this party, you were trying to pretend, like obviously everyone knew there was an Airbnb, but you were trying to show off something that in the reality isn't it. And that reflection, really, I was like, thank you, unpleasant, yes, but useful, yes. Like it would have been so much less useful, and I was like, screw this scam, and no lesson learned. Okay, it might have happened over and over again, right? Until I actually learned that lesson. So that's where like the universe loves to repeat lessons until we actually go like, oh, okay, this is a reflection of me, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm not embarrassed to say that there's a front that I am presenting, and what's really going on emotionally is like a complete mess, right? So that was powerful. So that is in terms of like reflection and taking every opportunity, especially the triggering ones, especially the ones you don't want, going like,
Absolutely.
I had a client that started to become really, really like toxic almost and overwhelming and just like pushing boundaries and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. First I was like taking it because I didn't know what was going on. And then eventually I was like, okay, Anna, apply your own principles, right? Like, where's this a reflection? And I had to look into where I was being abusive to myself and where I was being toxic to myself. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. For me to change this reflection on the outside, I need to change what's happening on the inside. And as soon as I did that, the relationship on the outside changes.
Right. This is really clever because what it's giving you is this everyday opportunity to turn around and learn a lesson and turn around and learn a lesson. So it's like a little ladder to self-observation, to noticing where am I, who am I, what am I doing, and how am I creating my life and my experience of life and of myself and the way that I go into the world through that. What's actually going on here? That's really clever. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's using the entire world as a mirror, every interaction with a person. And most of them are great, but when there are triggers, it's like, there's a saying, it's not mine, that says like triggers lead to traumas, meaning not that it's going to trauma you, it can, but mostly that you have a trauma that's stored inside that is being like brought up by that particular person. Have you ever had a person that you just did not like? There can be many reasons, but one of them could be that they're triggering a part of you that you won't see, you won't accept and love about yourself, So those are really powerful things. So, and this is like days of workshops in terms of helping teach people like really accept it, because it's really hard. We don't want to see the shadow side. We've been taught that one side is good, the other side is not so good.
Yeah, and I think that is probably the single most dangerous part of personal development work that we've been taught, is that we have to become better people, that there's something wrong with being fully yourself. Whoops. And that you've not bad, you're bad, go fix it. But actually this reflection of yourself is to see yourself fully. And yeah, I mean, we want to shave those harsh edges off. And we can't shave those half edges or polish them up or smooth them out a little bit unless we see that we are that too. Mm-hmm. But also we can't have the good side of ourselves without that mirror image, because there are often two sides of the same coin. Our worst part of ourselves often comes out as the opposite side, the same characteristic of the best part of ourselves. So the best part of myself might be I'm completely tactless, which is actually true about me. So the worst part of myself is I'm completely tactless. If you say, does my ass look big in these jeans? If I think it looks big in your jeans, I'll be like, yeah. And if you didn't want to know, you shouldn't have asked me. So I'm completely tactless and I'm pretty harsh with the way I say things. I'm just like straightforward. And that's the worst part of me. But the best part of me is that I am so straightforward that you will never be under. You don't have to guess about me. You don't have to. And I will also have the power and the strength to stand up for somebody who's being abused, because I'm so straightforward and so brave. And so this best side and worst side are always two sides of the same coin in us. But we've got to see both sides. That's great. Yeah. What else? Next principle. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap that one up, if anyone here is listening to this and they're struggling with this concept of reflection, I'll give one practical journal prompt. Okay, you take out a piece of paper and a pen, and then you think of someone that's triggering you that you don't want to necessarily reflect on, but deep down that's going to be helpful. You write, just like me, they are fill in the blank. They are rude, they are angry, they are mean, they are whatever it is, right? And then without judging or being just go like, how could this, where is this true? What part, what elements? You don't have to own the whole thing, but if you start with like just tugging a little piece of a string, it starts to unravel. And then you're like, oh, and then the compassion starts to just pour out of you. So
love it.
So yeah, that's a great practical one. Okay, so number 2.
Yay! That much.
So principle number 2 in relating has to do with nature. is going back to nature, and
Mm-hmm.
as a human living in terms of behavior as closely to nature as possible. Meaning, things like good and bad do not exist in nature. Like winter is not bad, summer is not good, killing is not bad, death is not bad. All of these things that as humans we have like a judgment on is actually just our human brains. We are not part of nature, we are nature, meaning that actually everything is neutral and we just judge everything as good and bad. Kindness is good, rudeness is bad. Well, just like you said, Angela, being straightforward, I could perceive it as rude because I have a trauma where, like, when I was 6 years old, someone was rude to me, and now I'm still like bringing that up. But straightforwardness is also good, right? So neutralizing all judgments of all good and bad. This is really difficult for most people. This was really difficult for me to really grasp my hands, especially when you go into like the really gnarly stuff of society,
Yeah.
which we're not going to go into like all of the depths of it. You can just like, and don't, because like eventually you can, obviously, but it can get very intense. But when you really start to go to the basics of atoms, electrons and protons, what we're all made of, there is nothing that's good and bad. It's all part of nature. And when we start to release those judgments of our shadow side, of other people's shadow side, like compassion again, like starts to pour out of us. Um, I like that the word compass is in compassion. Like if I'm ever
Mm-hmm.
lost, then like my compass, lead me to compassion.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really coming back to like, okay, I am nature, and if there is no such thing as good and bad, how would they change this exact interaction, right? Because most of the time I'm judging your opinion's bad because it's going to hurt someone, it's going to hurt you, or whatever, right? Well, what if it was neutral, right? And just starting
Mm-hmm.
that exploration of neutrality, how everything in the universe is neutral, and as humans judge it as good and bad. Now, there are lots of benefits to consumerism and capitalism to train people and indoctrinize us into believing in good and bad. There's benefits for the church, benefits for the state, there's benefits to big corporations. For example, aging is bad, anti-aging is good. They're going to sell the anti-aging stuff, obviously, right? So it's very difficult, especially upfront when you first discover this principle, very
Mm-hmm.
difficult at first because you're like, I've been told my entire life, right? The 10 principles in the Bible are good. Going against them are bad, right? For example. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So really like awakening to the neutrality and love of the universe is quite a thing at first. So I know these are really big topics.
Well, I love that. I've always said the big girl panties of life is acceptance of the truth.
Wow.
Like
Love it.
the ultimate of the big girl panties is to be with the truth and be okay with it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Love that, Angela. I'm gonna write that down.
you can use the big girl panties quote if you like. Yeah.
So
Well, that's
I'll move on.
I love that, and it's quite a journey to learn that, isn't it? Because we might be able to say, okay, I can get my head around the idea that grown women have cellulite. 80-90% of grown women have cellulite. I still don't want to have cellulite. But we can still get our head around, okay, fine, I can get my head around cellulite. But now, to really be neutral about life, to really be in acceptance, I've got to get my head around the fact that somebody murdered my father. And that is huge.
I know
It's a lifetime's
that
worth of
is huge.
self-care and relaxing into the possibility of life just being an adventure and an experience, not a goal or a place that has to be or a right or a wrong of it. It's huge. And that somebody else has traumatized me or hurt me in some way, even on a minor level, seems to be huge. I mean, I sometimes look at people, get all like, and I'm like, oh, why am I so freaked out by them? To just accept, oh, this is who they are, this is how they are, can be like, wow, it can be half an hour processing just to go, okay, I don't even hardly know this person, but let me just be with who they are. So yeah, really big subject, that one.
And just to share, like, emotion clouds truth always,
Yeah.
right? So when you're highly charged, it goes both ways. If you're highly happy on your wedding day and it's the best day ever, and you're getting divorced 3 years later, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't the best. It was a fine, like, so the new, like, it becomes neutral. And then you're going through divorce and it's the worst day ever. 10 years later, you've met the love of your life. You're the happiest that you've ever been. You're like, was bad. Like, it didn't feel comfortable, but it was absolutely necessary. So we have two things. Emotion cloud the truth of neutrality, and time heals it. So time always lifts that cloud. Now you can wait. You can wait 3 months, 3 years, or 30 years until you're like, oh, that person wasn't that bad, or that situation actually really benefited me. Like, I needed to get fired. I needed, that terrible thing to happen, as I like, and having compassion that it is really terrible, right? But how much beauty comes out of trauma and really, like, difficult situations. It is absolutely part of life. So we can fight it. We can wait for time to give us the answer, or we can operate from the universal principle of neutrality and nature. We are all built of atoms, and this is how it operates. And it might not be the nicest thing to think, like, the murder of someone is like part of the picture, and it's all going to work out, but it is probably the most useful thing. So let me say that it might not be good or bad, but it can be useful or not useful. So compared to where I'm going to, for example, I want to build a business. Now, me procrastinating and watching Netflix all day is not good or bad. Is it useful to me building $1 million business? No. So, and like, so this is the next step. Like, what do I replace good and bad with if I can't judge it? And here's the other thing: we're always going to judge. I personally, when I hear someone like, I don't judge, I don't believe you, really. Because our birth instinct is to judge. We have to judge if something is good or bad for us, or something's going to kill us or heal us. We have like a sense in our noses. We smell things like poisons, right? Or like berries that are off or whatever, because if we eat it, we're going to die. Not so dramatic, obviously, but we have inherent physical, biological senses to tell us if something is going to keep us alive, is something useful, or if something is going to kill us, not so useful, right? So we can't run away from that nature of us. So if I'm like going kumbaya, I'm not judging anyone. Bullshit.
Bullshit. Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
Cool. You do you, friend. Okay, buddy. Okay, bye. So we are judging things, but what is more useful? Is it useful to say, this is so bad and I'm going to be a victim of this, or just say, this is not useful and I'm going to choose to do something different? Yeah. So having that question in your toolbox, again, something very practical, just going like, compared to what I want, is this useful? Compared to the loving relationship I want, is this fight right now useful? It's not good or bad, but is it useful?
I love that. Excellent. Great. 3?
Okay. Number 3. When values are clear, decisions are easy. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they come to me and they, for example, have valued their business over their families for years, decades sometimes, right? And they're like, no, but I'm doing it for my family. I get that logic. Of course I do. But the reality is that our brains have a hierarchy of values. And we can say that both our families and our businesses are always important. That is not the absolute truth. They can be closely important, very, very close. But if you really dig deep, and you have to ask yourself, what would I choose right now in this moment? In this crisis with a family, or in this crisis with a business. And if you choose, business crisis or a family crisis over and over again, then that obviously has consequences, right? So, so when values are clear, decisions are easy. So then when I work with these entrepreneurs and they're like, okay, my values now, my family, I want to build these relationships, then I'm like, then you're going to have to make different decisions. So sometimes it's going to mean that your business, you're not going to prioritize your business. So really, like, prioritizing the relationships that you want to build. Now, please understand that your relationship with a business is also a relationship.
Okay, yeah.
right? So when you're going like, I'm
Thanks. People talk
choosing,
about it as their baby.
yeah, absolutely. So every time you're choosing your relationship with your business over the relationship with your partner's going to know, right? It's kind of like we can lie to ourselves and we can say, well, I'm doing it for my partner and our kids or whatever the situation is. Everyone's different, obviously. But the reality is, doing that enough is going to have consequences. So if you don't like the consequences, then you have to choose different values and you have to prioritize it differently. And then your decisions are going to become easy. No, I'm not going to go golfing on a Friday afternoon for hours on end, because my values are now different. So,
and how do you
that's
help people to establish their values? Because I think that people get very, very caught up and confused by what they think their values should be, as opposed to what their values really are. Do you find that your clients struggle with that?
yeah, absolutely. So our reality always reflects our values. Always.
Mm. Yeah. So
Okay.
you can see
So
straight off what their values are.
you have to be honest with yourself. And this is why people hire coaches like me, is because
Mhm.
they're not willing to be honest with themselves. And now they're like in a situation they need someone to be like, you say that your family is important, but the reality is that it's not. Because this is
Mm.
what's actually happening, right? They're feeling this way and this is what's happening. So really helping someone and standing with them, supporting them, going like, this is not good or bad. This is useful for us to know so we can make new decisions tomorrow and today and tomorrow and going forward,
Mm.
and really helping someone feel safe, that like they are understood and not judged, and like really like whatever your values are, it's fine. But the truth is your reality is your value. So for example, I can give a personal, quite raw example for myself. I've always wanted kids and I've said this for years and years. The fact that I don't have kids means that my absolute highest values is not kids. It means I'm
Mm.
not getting into the right relationships. It's not means like all of these different things, like financially, all these different things. Now I can say here and I'll be like, oh, it's situational and the world is happening and I just happen not to have kids. And
Mm.
that's not useful for the way that I want to live my life. It's much more useful to say like, well, where am I? Where is that true for me? That kids and having a family right now is not the highest value. What is the highest value? And if I want it to be different, if I really want my values to be kids and family, then what different decisions do I have to make? So that's just something I'm actually personally working on this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's quite big because it can be scary to look at that inside of yourself, can't it?
mhm. Yeah, it can. And again, we can wait for situations to change, or you can say, well, this is the true reflection. And what that means, because I'm a coach and I also work with coaches, like basically is that I have a narrative that says I want kids, and I also have a narrative that says I don't want kids, right? And that actually goes to point number 4 in terms
Mm.
of the 4 shifts, is like really working on your inner child healing
Mm.
and your primary relationships, because we have a blueprint of how we relate. I think it's created in the first like 3 to 7 years. Like by 7 years it's like created, like this is how you relate to people. So those
Mm.
early initial relationships with parental figures, with brothers, sisters, whatever other family, like whoever was in that molding phase of ours, and really understanding inner child healing, which is like I said, the 4th shift, is really where relationships shift in the long term. We all know
Mm.
someone who gets into the same relationship over and over again with a different guy or a different girl, right? So until that inner child healing and that primary relationship with that father figure, mother figure, or mother and mother figure, or father father figure, or whatever it is, changes and shifts, it's going to on the surface be quite difficult. So again, those building blocks into looking into how we were formed in terms of our behavior, and then how does that inform how we behave and relate with others. And I can give a personal example again. Was having this fight with a partner of mine a couple years ago, and he was in the kitchen trying to work, and I was trying to clean up, and he wouldn't budge. And I was like, hey, do you mind just like going to the other room and I'm working on your laptop there? And he's like, no, just clean around me. And I was like, please just go to the other room. I'd really just like to clean. And then I like blew it. It was completely irrational. I was like, out of the kitchen. Like I was like, I need to clean and da-da-da. And then like in a moment of reflection, I was like, whoa, what happened there? And all of a sudden I was transported to a time where, my mom looked after the kids at home and she was doing a lot of the cleaning, and my dad did a lot of the bring the bacon home, making the money, right? And the like the USSR type of family. And I kind of like felt, which is not necessarily true, but this is what a kid's perception was, that my dad didn't respect my mom. And I didn't want my partner to see me cleaning because that meant that I was not respected. Is it true? Absolutely not. It wasn't true when I was a kid that my dad didn't respect my mom, but that's how I perceived it. And it's not true now that my partner doesn't respect me if I'm cleaning, but that is an inner child behavior, because my inner child was ruling me at that time. And until we learn to parent our own inner children, we're going to run on autopilot in terms of how we lash out at our partners, even at clients or business partners, and all sorts of things. It's like business relationships, personal relationships, it's all relationships.
It's all about that self-mastery. Actually, my emotions are created by me from something. Unless I can see my emotions are created by me from something, I can't go around and sort that out so that I don't have to blow every 5 minutes. Excellent. Thank you for those examples. It's really helpful to hear your story, to hear it. Okay, so were we not on number 4 now, or is that 5? Wait, 1, 2, 3.
Five. So just to reflect, number 1 is you're half of every relationship. So in terms of like really seeing the reflection on everybody and everything. And number 2 is following the laws of nature, of judgment. There is no good and bad. It can be useful or not useful. Number 3 is when values are clear, decisions are easy. Really prioritizing the values that you want to see blossom in your life. Number 4 is the inner child healing. And then number 5, which is the last one that we teach, is community and mentorship. A lot of us obviously didn't learn the stuff at school. And a lot of us default into things that we know. So other relationships around us have, we might have one couple that's amazing, but most will have like similar things because, we attract people into our lives with similar types of relationships a lot of the time. So having that that consciousness to go like, I want to learn from people who know better and do better. And I really want to like elevate myself, and finding community and elevate my relationships, personal, business, and finding a community and mentorship to help you get there is going to be the fastest way for you to get there. First of all, your nervous system is going to recalibrate to the people that you are learning from now. Right? So automatically, just being in the room, virtually or in a physical room, your nervous system is already going like, oh, okay, it's already different without you doing anything. You don't even have to change anything. There's this crazy study how people like lost so much weight by moving neighborhoods, not changing diet, not like doing anything with fitness. All they did was move neighborhoods. This is that principle. If you move neighborhoods in terms of your relating from someone that you aspire to, you're going to shift significantly. And then on top of that, if you learn new like amazing relating skills, one of my favorite questions in a conflict, for example, is, because I love giving practical things, one of my favorite questions is like, beyond what you and I want, what does love want? And like learning these types of things and then going home and applying them, or going into the office and applying them, it's just going to transform you like insane amounts. So those are the 5 that we teach.
That's marvelous. Thank you. Those are really, really clever ways of redirecting the mind to look again and to look in a new way, to create new thinking. I love that. So how do you actually go about working with your clients? Do you see them and sit down and have a philosophical discussion about these things? Are you looking at helping them to see from specific examples in their lives? Do you do any other somatic work? How exactly do you work?
So it's a combination of group and one-on-one. So in groups, we discuss like the philosophy behind things, right? And then we also like share, like it's actually a very, very practical. I'm like, what's going on in your week right now? How is this a reflection of what's going on? How are we going to shift it? I personally don't have, I know somatic work and I've done somatic work. It's really wonderful. I'm not practiced in that, so I can't teach it, right? But and I know there's powerful ways to shift your reality with that, but it's more of like this, like really reflecting and discussing of like what's going on for you. Number one, where are you? Where do you want to be? Right? What's not working? And then really committing to that, having accountability. We usually work in a 3 or 6 month container, depending on where they are and what they want to shift. And yeah, then we get to work. And it's all just about being present in reality and being honest with yourself and being accountable to yourself and taking full ownership of everything. And it's really hard to do for myself as well. I need to work on with a coach to help me with my stuff, right? So it's really hard to do on our own because, all the protection and boundaries that we've put up for ourselves just because we needed to survive when we were younger. So, and also understanding on the note of like no good and bad, however you're reacting is simply is protecting you, right? And it's there because it helps you survive. And so is it good or bad? No. Is it useful? It was useful till now, but what got you here today is not going to get you to where you need to be next. So what's going to be useful next? And working for 3 to 6 months and just watching the transformations, that's how I do it. We usually do it in groups of like 12 to 15. And I love the group accountability as well. The relationships and bonds that form, people learning from each other's situations is amazing.
Lovely. And you're writing a book about relating, right? Tell me about the book. How far along are you? How's it going? When is it likely to be done? Tell me about the struggles of writing. Tell me about all of that.
Oh my gosh, this is my 3rd book. And every time I'm like, why? So if anyone's written a book, you know that it's not the most linear of processes. And your book kind of starts to write itself eventually. And what you think it's going to start off doesn't usually end up being it. I had one experience when I wrote a book in like 4 months, and that was like amazing because that was like very short. But this one is a little bit topsy-turvy. So I'm taking all of these principles that I teach, that I shared today, plus some others, and I'm putting into a book. It's called Relating, just the word relating. And then the subtitle is Mastery of Human Connection. And like I said, it's that whole antithesis to feeling lonely, like a lot of people do. I know I certainly have, and everything. That is my guide and my motivation. How far is it along? I cannot tell you. I want to say it's 4 to 6 months away, but I don't know. It keeps on changing right now. And yeah, it will probably be early next year, in the first quarter of next year. I've also decided to, obviously share what I want to share, but also add on inspiration from other relating experts and, life coaching experts and stuff like that, like Angela. So Angela has been interviewed for my book as well. So her lots of wisdom, not little, lots of wisdom is going to be added to the book as well. And really, build a whole platform and system for relating versus me just going like, this is how you relate. I want it to be very interactional and interlearning kind of thing, because I have lots to learn always, no matter what the topic is. There's infinite amounts of learning. I will never be like, I know everything about relating, never, ever. But I do have a significant amount of insight, and I think that my insight really does help people. I know it helps people, otherwise I would not be doing it, obviously. And yeah, I'm excited to put it in book form. So long, we just do it in masterclasses online. So, while the book is being finalized, there's lots of I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed, and people to be interviewed and all those things. So yeah, might take 4 to 6 months.
Marvelous. And the interviews you do you put them on YouTube or anywhere that people can come and have a look at them?
Not yet, but I will. So I need to really like do a lot of the editing and stuff like that. So
Okay.
next month I'll be starting to release. It will be shorter form content, like YouTube Shorts at first. So I'm going to be like cutting out little, and then I'll be also putting the longer stuff on as well. But we know that the short form content is like insanely big right now with YouTube Shorts and TikTok and everything. So we'll be optimizing for that first. So yeah, look out for that.
Definitely. Okay, so I put Anna's Instagram address below. So you'll see it pop up in the little line. It's been scrolling past all this time. And Relationship Academy is the business name. If you want to get hold of her, they can message you on Insta, or can we give them an email address? Or
DM me on Insta. That's the best way. Basically, if you Google my name, Anna Shalina, all my stuff comes up. So my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Facebook, anything that you need. So you can find me in lots of different ways. But the main way that clients get in touch with me up front is through Instagram. So yeah, just send me a DM. Let me know that you've heard, it's through Angela's platform, and I'd love to have a conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all of this today. I feel completely inspired. It's been a sweet pleasure having you on my little chat. And I hope that the rest of you who've been watching or listening to this have had some little grain of insight that's going to help you to move along in your lives and find a life of happiness and pleasure and smooth sailing as much as possible.
Thank you, Angela. I love being here. If you can't tell, I can talk about this forever, and I'm so passionate. So yeah, I'm always happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Excellent.